Good evening, members. We're online again, unfortunately. Usual scenario, raise your hand if you want to ask a question. We've got Councillor Town on the phone, he'll just have to shout up. Otherwise, wave madly in your box and I'll try and catch you. You can catch my eye and I'll make sure I come to you. We've quite a few things to note tonight, so I'm not proposing that we take a vote on those unless members specifically ask for them. So if you're desperate to take a vote on something, please let me know. But there are a couple of voting things, so we will be doing those. Guy, over to you with apologies for absence and substitutes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillors Morell and Barrett, and I'll just take a quick roll call of members present at the meeting, if that's all right. Councillor Foster. So I'll read out your name. If you could just indicate whether you're present or not, that'd be great. Councillor Barrett's already given his apologies. Councillor Foster.
Yeah.
Councillor Heseltine.
Can you unmute, Robert?
Councillor Heseltine, do you want to unmute yourself and just indicate that you're present at the meeting? If not, we may just come back to you. Okay, we'll come back to you, Councillor Heseltine. Councillor Ireton.
Present.
Councillor Liz.
Here.
Councillor Madeley, I don't believe is present yet. Councillor Metcalfe.
Yeah.
Councillor Morell submitted his apologies. Councillor Mulligan.
Present.
Councillor Myers, I don't believe is present. No.
Yes,
Councillor
he
Myers?
is.
Yes,
Sorry,
he is.
Councillor Myers.
This one.
My apologies. Councillor Noland.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Place.
Here.
Councillor Rose.
Present.
Councillor Welsh.
Present.
Councillor Wheeler.
Present.
Just another attempt at Councillor Heseltine. Councillor Heseltine, are you present?
Is it *6 to unmute, Guy?
I think it is. I might need to double check with Hannah on that one.
Try *6 on your keypad, Robert.
It is *6, Guy.
Thanks, Hannah.
We'll see if he comes back to us.
Right. Okay. If you are able to unmute, use the unmute function, Councillor Heseltine. If you'd just like to indicate that you're back with us, that would be great. Thank you.
Moving on, confirmation of minutes. Are members happy to have a mover seconder for that?
Move on, Chairman.
Second them, Chairman.
Looking around, nobody's waving madly that they want anything altering, so we'll take it as read. Public participation, I don't believe we've got anybody.
No members of the public present.
Declarations of interest, again, I'm looking around the screen, seeing if anybody's waving madly at me that there's something on the agenda. I don't think there will be. No, can't see any hands up. So, moving on, Patrick, would you like to present the Q1 revenue budget monitor?
Richard, can you hear me now?
We've got you, Robert, loud and clear.
Right. Yes, I'm present. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Chairman. So this report is the revenue budget monitoring for Q1, and the report presents the first financial forecast for the 2020-21 revenue budget, 30th of June 2020. The net cost of service forecast is for an adverse variance of 1.439 million compared to last year at this time where we were positive 300,000. And this is on the revised budget of 6.91 million. The majority of this overspend can be attributable to the losses of income associated with measures taken during the COVID-19 lockdown. Appendix A summarizes the information by service, and further breakdown of departments is also included. Appendix B shows the latest information regarding the income and savings plan, both the green and amber items. There was also some background information regarding the agency usage and the car parking income performance. The total revenue budget forecast is an adverse variance of £663,000. This is due to the corporate cost savings outside of the net cost of service. There is a significant saving in relation to the altered minimum revenue provision policy in February 2020, which is £108,000. And if anyone has further questions about that, Richard can address it. It's an accounting adjustment. And this combined with the central, Richard Way, this combined with the central government support of 668,000 has reduced the expected deficit. As stated in the report, overall, at the end of Q1, income streams were down by 1.8 million, but there is confirmed government support to come that will compensate for some of this loss. At the time of writing the report, the details have not been finalized. The application of this support will be reflected in the Q2 outturn report. The income and savings plan has achieved savings of £176,000 in 2021, including the 109,000 minimum revenue provision. Details of these can be seen in Appendix B. The Amber savings are shown at £188,000, but as these are mainly income-based, it is likely these will not be achieved fully this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the recommendations are shown in the report, paragraphs 2.1 to 2.4, and I would move those, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mulligan. Members, I know Councillor Wheeler had asked some questions which had been replied. Just a quick question, did they get shared with all members or Richard?
No, the questions raised have just been shared with CLT, yourself and the deputy and the lead member for finance.
I'm just wondering that the questions first to all the council, it might be worth sharing those answers. I've lost Richard somewhere. Seeing if he's nodding.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm happy to circulate them to all members, Councillor Foster.
Looking around, there's no comment. Just a comment from me, really, that you know, the government funding that has been promised will be a massive help. We would be really in trouble without this, but it's still not pretty reading, really, and we've you know, it is going to impinge on some of our reserves that we may have used for other things next year. So, but you know, it's a pandemic. Nobody asked for this, and you know, we can manage it financially, which I think is really good for our authority, that we're in a position that it doesn't wreck us. But that's just my statement. So happy to second the report from the chair. Looking around, any other members with any other comments on this? There's no hands flying up anywhere, so we'll take it as if members are happy to note this. I'm looking around for nods.
Councillor Rose might have had her hand up, just indicating that she might have wanted to
go for it, Councillor Rose.
Thank you. For fear of asking questions I should have organised earlier, I was just a bit concerned on 3.8 about the would there be any long-term impact on staffing at the leisure centre with respect to obviously the issue of reduced income from the as a result of COVID. Do we know any more about that?
I'm thinking not, because it's now, as far as I know, fully up and running, and we'll need the staff in order to run it. But I'm looking around. Paul Ellis, possibly.
No, there shouldn't be any direct impact on the staff. You're right, Chair. The leisure centre is now up and running and fully operational with all the required social distancing and controls in place.
Thank you. And may I ask also, has the business of Computershare moving from Skipton, presumably that will have had an effect on income?
Richard, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, if we're talking in terms of business rates, you know, any because we're in a pool across quite a significant geographical region, you know, whilst individual moves do have an impact, we're cushioned, I suppose, and we all members of the pool are cushioned from individual movements and changes within their areas. But we do need to be mindful that across the board, you know, if other companies, businesses, shops, whatever they might be, start to relocate or close out of the area, then there would be a combined effect across the pool. But that's one of the benefits of being in the pool, that if there is one significant change in a local area, the impact is less, because we're part of a much bigger pool. And the financial impact of that will probably wash through next year rather than this.
Thank you.
Members, I'm looking around, nobody's shouting, waving, looking at top. Councillor Myers.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I mean, inevitably there will, I'm sure, however it is shared across the region, there will be an effect on business, because undoubtedly a number of businesses won't survive this pandemic. But I don't think that particular one is necessarily the problem you might imagine. It's a problem in terms of employment. But the building belongs to Skipton Building Society. And they will still be paying rates the same way that you pay rates on empty shops in Skipton. So, but undoubtedly it will filter through. We do still have the business rates adjustment pot, don't we, as well, which I'm sure if we do have to alter things, that is still there. It's still one of our reserves, isn't it, that we haven't touched yet. So
yeah, it's stands at just over £1 million, and it helps to shield us from the impact of revaluations that when they're decided can be backdated, and so we've built a reserve to protect us from those changes, but it can help us smooth the impact of changes across the rating system if needs be.
So, yeah.
Could I say something, Richard?
Yeah, of course you can, Patrick.
Yeah, I just think there's some worrying things happening at the moment, and I think we're sort of living in the moment financially to a degree. As everyone's been mentioning, luckily we have some reserves that because we've been very prudent in our spending. And today, 2 weeks ago, we had 5 cases per 100,000 in North Yorkshire, and today we've got 30 cases per 100,000. So that's quite worrying, and we've seen spikes in Leeds and Bradford and Blackburn. And if we go back into, I think we've really got to try and get the message out to everyone. I know everyone's tired of hearing it, but we've really got to practice all of these measures to limit the spread of the virus. And if we go back into another lockdown or some second wave, it's going to be very difficult because we're in the process of spending reserves. And if we have to spend all of our reserves, that is not a good situation.
Agree more. Groups of 6 and no more until we're told otherwise. It's hugely important, and yeah, I think people have maybe got a bit bored of the message, but they do need to listen. And we will be out and about, not necessarily clamping down us, but we'll be out and about advising if we see rule breaking, as we have done all the way through this. So, good point, well made. Before we disappear off this, still looking round. Our members happy to note the financial position at Q1. Nobody's waving. So moving on, Patrick, if you'd like to deliver the report on the capital programme as it stands. You're muted, Patrick.
This is the capital program monitoring for the first quarter. And this report presents the first financial update for the 2020-21 capital program at 30th of June 2020. In February, the 2020-21 capital program was set at £4.49 million. Since that time, adjustments to the program of slippage equaling £5 million was added to the program. This gives a revised value of £9.53 million. Excuse me. Progress of projects within the program is shown at Appendix A. At the end of the first quarter, expenditure on the program stood at £944,000. This is since risen to circa £1 million. Some of the projects may not commence or will be completed in the 2021-22 financial year. And during the second and third quarters of this year, officers will provide a more detailed assessment of the value of this work and adjust the program accordingly. The recommendations are shown in the paragraphs 2.1 and 2.2, and I will move those, Chairman. Thank you.
you, Councillor Mulligan. Back again, members.
I'll second that, Jim.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. It is a case that, yeah, we've got a lot of programs going on. Things have been held up a bit with coronavirus, etc. But also, we've got some projects that we must deliver this year as well, with the finances and money coming in from elsewhere. So, we're moving those projects forward at pace, and I think all are now in the pipeline to at least get into the ground and therefore get that grant funding from where they're coming from. You just want to come in on that, David, just a quick update on a couple of the bigger ones.
Yes, just very briefly, members will be aware that Planning Committee passed made two important decisions in terms of the growth deal for Entershed Lane. So they're starting to get the sites up and running, particularly for the development of the dam in Eville Park on Gala Sykes, as the first step to improving the Entershed Lane. The other one is about the town hall, which is making really good progress and has come on in the last month, leaps and bounds really. So excitedly, the window should be going in this week, so that'll make a big difference. But they're looking to hand over the museum in October to us for us fit out, so that's slightly ahead of schedule, so it's making great progress. And finally, I should say about Landcliffe Quarry as well, which we've been working on for decades. So that's also got planning permission from the Yorkshire Dales National Park. So finalising the 106 on that, and then we can hopefully start the remediation work and taking down the old things. So that's brilliant, and it's been fantastic working with the National Park on that.
David, Councillor Rose.
Sorry, just making notes. No, just really want to say, despite obviously the financial constraints and worries and concerns that we do have, it is good to see that none of the projects have had to be cut. So commend everybody who's been involved in managing finances left, right and centre. Good to see that things are progressing, but do appreciate Councillor Mulligan's comments about we do need to be very wary and very aware that matters may well change. So a very pleasing report. Thank you.
Councillor Rose. Looking around, members, anybody wanted to wave? No hands shooting up. So on that note, thank you very much, members. And I'll take that as noted. And then on to performance monitoring. It says Councillor Mulligan here, but I'm feeling Richard's probably going to deliver this one.
Yeah, Richard will deliver this. I would just like to mention one thing, Chairman, and that's that there's a revised format of this report because we're transitioning both our performance systems and the staff supporting them. So this is the first report in the new style, and we would welcome feedback from members on the presentation as we continue to develop it and work toward a more enhanced report, quarter 2 stage. Members will note that some of the more detailed measures that have been reported previously are not included in this first report. But as we develop the approach, the quarter 2 reports will include everything that was previously. We would welcome your comments. I'll hand over to Richard.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mulligan. I'd also just like to mention that Rob Atkins is present at the meeting, who's leading on the performance system and reporting in the council and working to develop the changed approach. So as we go through the report, if there are any questions of detail, either Rob or myself will endeavour to answer them. But if we just look at section 4 and progress against the council plan, services returned updates for 19 actions that were in there, 13 of those, so that's 68% were rated as green and are progressing as planned. 2 have not yet started and 4 are rated amber or red. We've just had a more up-to-date update on the town hall, but at the time of writing this report, there was a sort of delay in terms of the planned timescales when this was set out. But pleasing to see that that's now progressing better. The references to the 2022 target for universal access to high quality broadband, the pace on that hasn't been as quick as anticipated or liked, And you can see the comments there about the increase in recycling rates, but we're unlikely to achieve the 50% target set. The red action, and I think we mentioned this at a previous meeting, is the introduction of a waste education program, and that hasn't started yet this financial year. So they're the headlines in terms of council plan. But happy to take any wider questions or comments about the change in style from members of the committee. Thank you.
Quick one from me. Happy to move it from the chair, but with the waste education thing, have we thought of a way of doing that, delivering that, or will it remain red? Access to schools.
I'll ask Rob, have you got a more up-to-date comment?
We don't have a way yet. I think it might be a bit early for us to have found a way. It hasn't happened because the resource that we would have used for it has been otherwise occupied dealing with other things. But I think that's something for us to look at.
Thank you. Councillor Rose.
Thank you. I don't quite understand the issue about broadband. The statement is stimulate demand for further broadband installations. Could you just please explain that, so that is this because a lot of areas are still short of a decent broadband? I'm aware that, you know, with the home working and home education, is this impacting? I just need that explaining. Thank you.
Yes, that's quite right. So some areas would still need to be requesting broadband to have it installed, and the economic development team have been working to do that. But again, with the various pressures on things that we've been doing, it hasn't progressed quite as fast as people would have liked. I think it's a difficult thing to do at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. Looking round again, are we happy to? Oh, Councillor Wheeler. And then Councillor Lace.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, Rob Atkins has answered quite a few questions of mine, but it might be worth sharing some of the observations with the members prior to moving on. The environmental health, for example, we were looking at green, and I think Rob was saying that although there's progress, it was difficult to quantify. I think that would be fair to say. So it was less about targets and a kind of more aesthetic feel to the report. But I've been assured that quarter two, there'll be some more hard facts that we can compare against, as opposed to a somewhat nebulous statement that we're working towards. I think there's an issue with regards payments tied to orders, which I'm sure audit will be looking at the next meeting, because I think that, in spite of it cropping up in audit as an issue in February, we've made some progress, but I think it needs to be better. It seems a fairly straightforward process. I'm not quite sure why we haven't grasped that. And waste management, I was querying the figures, and generally the pandemic comes in for a slating, as that's the cause why the figures are as they are. Well, I would talk largely down to the pandemic, and I just queried what else it was, and I think that's already been answered, which is, I guess, our education program has been pretty much stopped in its tracks until further notice, and that's perfectly understandable. It is an emerging report. I do prefer the style. I think it's easy to understand. The only thing I would like is probably a few more comparisons to targets, although the narrative is a lot better, and I certainly applaud Rob for putting it together. It's a vast improvement on the previous type of reports. Thank you.
Tend to agree. I understood it better, or it was straightforward and in your face sort of what it meant and what the reasons were behind some of the stuff, which I do think helps, rather than one small line in the major body of the report. So but I'm tempted to take other members' points of view on it. Anyway, Councillor Lace.
Yeah, just quickly, Chairman, on the waste issue. I mean, yeah, obviously the pandemic has had an awful effect on where we are, as Councillor Wheeler says. However, we have had a bit of a spike in terms of contamination of recycling loads recently, notably fabric and clothes and things like that. I think the little question that we need to have another attempt at education. I don't just mean junior education. I mean looking at ways that we can circulate the public, our general public again, to re-emphasise what you can and what you can't put in the bins. That's certainly one of the reasons that we haven't achieved our 50% this year, but we are intending to act on that as soon as we can. Okay, thank you, Chairman.
I'm wondering if some of the confusion over that one comes from the fact that there are clothing bins and fabric bins, you know, elsewhere that people do actually collect, and therefore.
Well, whatever the reason, we need to correct it. So we need to look at that and how we can have another attempt at circulating our electorate again.
Councillor Wheeler, would you like to come back in?
Yes, sorry about it. It's just something I forgot to mention, and it was an answer that Rob gave me. He did say that we'd take it up tonight, which was on the climate emergency strategy. The implication was it's on track, and then I did some counting up of the indicators, and of the 40 indicators, 16 were amber, 3 were red, 4 hadn't started, and 1 was on hold. So you're looking at less than 50% are actually green and on track. So I think it was a little misleading to say it's on track. But again, taking it up with Rob, and it was a bit late. I only asked the question on Monday, and I think future reports, I think maybe we can be a bit more clinical with regards our assessment, because if we're saying that our climate emergency strategy is one of the most important strategies that we have in the council, then I think we need to be a bit more forensic in terms of how we report against the indicators for future reports.
In defence of Councillor Lisa and Rob, I think from a standing start on a lot of this, and it really was a standing start, probably shouldn't have been, but was, that, you know, we've moved a lot of stuff forward, and at least they're there now. If we are failing, then we do have something that we can come back on, and, you know, it's going to be reported, and we can say, why aren't we doing that? So I do think if that list is still as long next time, then we need to start asking questions, and fairly rapidly. And it's good to actually even have a list like that, because we never even had a list in the past. So to have something we can compare against, I think it's a really good start. Councillor Nolan.
Thank you. I wanted to echo Councillor Wheeler's comments. Yeah, I'm really concerned about how many are amber or red. It is a concern. I appreciate that the pandemic has struck, but I'm still concerned. Maybe we could have some more stringent targets, certainly built into the next local plan, especially about, so for example, charging points for cars. Well, that's not totally the answer, but more stringent targets that we can work to that are time related as well. But it is a bit of a concern. I appreciate that these are mad times that we're living in and trying to keep everything going. The council's done very well, especially the officers, but it is a big concern to me how many are amber and red still at this time.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Sorry. Are we referring now to the report that's attached to the next item on the agenda? Because they're separate items. There's the performance report, and there's a separate report for the climate emergency.
Councillor Wheeler jumped ahead, so I thought I'd piggyback on that one. But yeah, you're right.
I was referring to the performance report.
Yeah, but you did mention the climate one as well.
Because it did appear in the performance report, and it was almost like apple through a stick of rock throughout the report. It was constantly referring to the climate strategy, climate emergency strategy. So I did raise the question under agenda item 7 to Rob, hence the statement I made.
Cheers, guys. Yeah, the climate. You can have a go at Councillor List in a minute when he delivers his climate emergency report. But yeah, I mean, it's great that it's actually running like you know, name through a stick of rock through the performance report now. I think that's hugely important. It means that officers are considering, and it's there. So it wasn't, and it is now. It's shown its importance. Looking around, members. No more hands. I've moved it. I don't know that I've got a second yet. I'm sure somebody will.
You have, Chairman. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm just looking around. It's again to note, so nodding. Yeah. Cheers, members. Thank you. Moving on. Agenda item 8. Changes to the current planning system. Just so we don't confuse this isn't the planning white paper. These are things that have been brought out prior to the planning white paper. We sort of see the list of questions that's been asked, and our answers, or at least the planning policy's answers, I should say. It's really a case of, are members happy with the answers that we have given? Do they want them strengthening, altering? So just a case of, really, David, if you want to present, and then over to members after that.
Yeah, very briefly. As Councillor Foster said, this is not the white paper. We'll be taking a report to special subcommittee next week for looking at the white paper in more detail, and then it'll be coming back to policy in October. So for this, there's sort of 4 key areas. The standard methodology, which in essence is the government saying what the minimum housing levels we've got to produce in the new local plan. Doesn't affect this local plan, but it will do in 40 odd months' time if the white paper goes through. I think key thing for us there is about flexibility. We'd expect it to be a significant reduction in housing targets, but that will have a significant impact on our communities and workforce and so on and so forth. So it's a double-edged issue, is that one. The other one is then about first homes, where it's a minimum 30% discount on for sale homes, which is the first 25% of all affordable houses. And in many areas of Craven, 30% reduction does not make houses affordable. And so it's something which, in principle, it's welcome it, but again, we need that flexibility to make it fit what's suitable for Craven. Next one is about support for SMEs. And again, I can see why they're doing this, but it's about in those urban areas, and officially our only urban areas in Craven is Cross Hills, Glusburn and Skipton. And there it's about no affordable housing on sites, either between sort of 40 to 50, they haven't quite decided yet. And that has an impact in the local plan of a loss of 24 affordable houses over the next 12 years. So we haven't hard enough to get affordable houses as it is, so we'd rather not lose 24 affordable houses. And the final one is it's called the PIP, which is, I always forget what the term is, but it's about giving prior permission, really in principle permission. And this is for brownfield sites. So at present, we produce a brownfield register, and we then say which of those sites we believe are suitable for development, and then people come forward. So in effect, they've got outline plan permission. People then come forward to development. They're not coming forward, and nationally they aren't coming forward. So the government are expanding this to all sites underneath the threshold which need environmental impact assessment, which is very large, but we still don't think it'll have a big impact in actual fact. So they're the key areas which we're feeding back on. Clearly the white paper is sort of the big show in town, and this is more interim and me bridging the gap between now and whatever comes out of the white paper.
So members, are we happy with CDC's response on this? Anybody like to alter anything on this, or think anything ought to be strengthened, or for my mind, I think it sums Craven's position up. Not everywhere's the same across the country. If you go to somewhere with low house prices, then there's differences and different effects. So I think we need to make Craven's case through this. Whether it's going to have much effect when you see what's in the planning white paper, or potentially could be in the planning white paper, I think that this will be, like I say, a very short-term interim measure.
Move the recommendation, Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder on this?
I'll second it.
I mean, if anybody reads through it and just finds something not, I mean, we delegate an authority here too, David. So if anybody picks something up at a later date, please feed it into him that you, or ask a question and see if it's relevant to it. Councillor Rose.
Apologies, sorry, I seem to have something on most issues here. I'm just very, very conscious that we cannot afford to lose anything with respect to affordable housing. We have enough trouble as it is, and anything that can be done to ensure that we do provide the number of affordable houses that we need to is essential. So please, we mustn't miss out on that. Thank you.
Yeah, if you look at the white paper as well, I think there's big risks to affordable housing on that as well, with off-site delivery and stuff, but not to go down that route at the moment. But it is an argument that yeah, we still do need social housing as well as affordable housing, because they appear to have been separated somehow, and they need putting back together, that social housing and affordable housing need to be delivered. We're sort of waiting on the white paper on how they're actually going to deliver social housing, because there's still an acknowledgement they need it, but it appears to be more about first-time buyers. So, but yeah, it's going to be a constant battle, I think. For we need to deliver both. We need first-time buyers being able to buy houses, but we also need some social rented, and whether that's going to become the responsibility of the councils or not, we're going to have to wait and see. But we're going to need the finances then to be able to do that. So these are arguments that we need to keep rattling on as we go through. Looking around, nobody else indicating waving madly. So on that note, I think we need to take a vote here, do we, Guy?
Yeah, I think we do, Councillor Foster. The members have been asked to approve the officer comments and also grant delegated authority. So if I can do a quick roll call of members' voting intentions, that'd be great. Councillor Foster.
For.
Councillor Heseltine.
For.
Councillor Ireton.
For.
Councillor Liz.
For.
Councillor Metcalfe.
For.
Councillor Mulligan.
For.
Councillor Myers.
For.
Councillor Noland.
For.
Councillor Place.
For.
Councillor Rose.
For.
Councillor Welsh.
For.
And Councillor Wheeler.
For.
Thank you. That's unanimous.
Thank you, members. So moving on, agenda item 9, over to Councillor Liz.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Members will be aware that this council unanimously declared a climate emergency in August last year, and we agreed to plan to address it in February. When we agreed the plan, we said that we'd review it once a year and that we'd present a light touch review of progress every 6 months. It now has been 6 months, and this report is our first review of progress. We believe that we're making good progress on addressing our own emissions, and I stress our own emissions. The decarbonising Skipton bid, which, as members will be aware, we debated at the last policy meeting, if that's successful, we'll introduce measures to address about a third of our energy use in buildings of ours by 2023. We exceeded our tree planting target for last year. We planted 9,000 trees. And we're now reviewing our sites to see where we can plant more. We've also used the opportunity presented by the current circumstances to, where appropriate, offer staff a part-time parking permit, which is helping to reduce unnecessary private car journeys to the office. Across the district, the situation, however, is rather more challenging. We know that together with our partners, we need to act faster to increase renewable energy generation, to improve energy efficiency, and to change the way we travel if we're to reach our ambitious target. We have made some progress on district-wide measures. For example, our first electric charging vehicle point was switched on in July. And together with the Canals and Rivers Trust, we've completed the upgrade of the Leeds-Liverpool Canal towpath. This is now a good, safe walking and cycling route all the way from Gargrave to Kildwick. But we do acknowledge that there is more to do. and we will continue to support and encourage partner organisations and businesses who are working to do more. And could I just at this stage compliment Ro Atkins, who's done an awful lot of work working with some of the local climate change groups. Certainly in North Craven, that I'm aware that he's worked with quite a number around there. So thank you very much, Rob, for all the work you're doing on that. It's likely that we'll need to see some change in legislation, however, to enable faster development. The government needs to stand up and be counted on this. And I'm going to describe one such change in the next report on the agenda. As well as describing our progress so far, this report describes the measures that we plan to use to assess our position at the end of the year. And I ask that the committee agree this set of measures. Though we know there's more to do, I ask the committee to note the progress we have already made as a council and the good work that is happening across the district to address the climate emergency. Thank you, Chairman.
Members looking around, you know, like I said in the previous thing, you know, it was a standing start, and you know, Rob, Gal, taking us really on board. I do think we're making progress. Slow. I always believe that these things, you know, would take time. I think we do need more support from the government, both financially and legislatively, in order to deliver this at a faster pace. If we're going to do it, are we going to do that under the current financial situation of the country? I'm not totally sure, but as part of the devolution agreements, things like that, it's all about building back greener, doing things greener. So we need to pressurise that, but we can't probably do that without financial initiatives. The one we're using for the European money that we're using for the buildings. But you'll see in the next report, anything that we can get and persuade the government to make this easier and easier for communities has got to be a big help. At some point, you know, the council can do so much, but at some point we also need the people to help themselves with this. So I think it's about, you know, us being enablers through a lot of this, rather than actually, we've got to deliver our own stuff, but we've also then got to become enablers. And I believe we can do that. And I think we're heading in that direction, which is really good, especially with the good work that Rob's doing. Councillor Rose.
Thank you. Very briefly, there is a lot to commend, and obviously much has already been done. There's plenty more still to do. That's totally understood. Can we make sure that this is really clearly advertised, perhaps in a neat little bit for the Craven Herald and all the rest, the website, etc., just so people do know exactly what has been achieved so far, because it does tend to get lost a bit, I think. So really publicise the fact that this is what we have achieved, and obviously accept that there's more still to be done, but these things do take time. So I make a plea for advertising the fact that we've made progress. Thank you.
Liz, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, just thank you, Chairman, again, very quickly. I mean, I mentioned in my lead into this that we did publicise our last policy, following our last policy committee, the bid we were making for the funding. And we're also, one would hope, if you agree the next agenda item, we will be publicising that as well in the Craven Herald. So yeah, thank you, Councillor Rose, I appreciate that.
Now, members, just on it, the bottom bit is, are we happy with the what do you call it, the sort of matrix we're using to test this against? You know, at the moment we've got this matrix, and that's our 0.0, and working away from it. Are we all happy that you know, it's the second part of the recommendations? Are we all happy with where we set 0.0? I think is the real question. And if so, I can probably take this as a report to note as such, because we've already got 0.0. We're not taking a new one. Looking around, nobody else. Oh, Councillor Myers, were you waving?
Yes, I was, Chairman. I just wanted to say that I mean, I think we are making good progress. And it's undoubtedly the case that the council as a whole, members and officers, are very keen to see this. And just to remind everybody that it's all our responsibilities. It isn't just to officers to dream up schemes, ways of achieving our. You know, we can all have input on this. Any good ideas are welcome, wherever they come from. But of course, we have to live in the constraints that you in the current financial situation we're in, and we need to lobby government to do more, and we need to persuade government that this should be one of their priorities, rebooting the economy, which let's see, but it's for all of us to do our bit to come up with constructive.
Councillor Wheeler, then Councillor Nolan.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Yeah, this is to Carl. It's there's a couple of aspects of the report that I are somewhat dispiriting, and it's not us. It's the planning aspect of it, in terms of the heading towards carbon neutral, and the comment in the report that we have very little influence over new development, and it is what I find hard, or what I'm struggling with is if we as a nation feel that this climate emergency is real and we need to move towards carbon neutrality. What's the issue with developers? I mean, why aren't they on board with it in terms of coming up with a high spec design that which will head us all towards carbon neutrality? Is it money? And if we as a council are in the same position as other councils, is there some sort of joint approach that other councils or planning authorities can make in terms of representation to the government? And I guess we are looking towards the white paper to put something in place whereby developers are given a bit more of a hard time in terms of what they come up with their new developments and its carbon neutrality or its carbon neutral design. So, you know, can more pressure be put on developers through combined efforts of other planning authorities?
I'll come to Councillor Nolan because that might be a question of you as well, Carl, and then I'll let you reply.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, this is. I've said a little bit already. I'm concerned that we've got a long way to go. If 2030 is our deadline, which according to scientists it is, we need to get a bit of a move on here. Locally, I think other people mentioned to me that there's a lack of sort of segregated cycle lanes around. I have noticed an awful lot more people cycling around Skipton, and it's outside on the lanes around. So that's really good to see. I've picked up the market closure or the high street closure, but there seems to be a bit of a radio silence from maybe yourself or other people in the council about that. Because I've noticed most of the letters, for example, the Craven Herald have been in favour. There was the odd one that's criticised it. Wouldn't it be great if you, Richard, would, you know, with the business leaders, I know the council was involved in closing the high street, which I think is a fantastic thing. The traders seem to say it's a great idea when I'm in town. Can we big that up even more? You talk about talking to Craven Herald. It comes to mind. And I've mentioned this at policy meetings before. Could we not just say it in Craven District Council, all new developments are carbon neutral? Because if they're not, it's defeating the whole object, and we're building in carbon release for the future. And I noticed there's one tiny aspect I should have mentioned to Rob before the meeting, but under carbon neutral development in the report, it says something like balancing affordability with the energy profile of new developments. And I'd have thought the more energy secure or more carbon neutral the development, the cheaper it will be for a family to run in the future. So that really concerned me. That that seemed to be the wrong way round. And I'm waffling now, so I'll stop. So back to you, Chairman.
Councillor Liss, if you want to come on in the Albert.
Yeah, I'll take Councillor Nolan's first. I mean, yeah, the issue of planning is a real biggie, isn't it? I mean, we as a council are committed, I think, and can see the issues with regard to homes being more power conscious and more conservation conscious. However, we are faced with planning legislation that we have to deal with, notably the viability tests that every developer as subjects is applications to. So yeah, we want to do more, we will do more, we'll lobby wherever we can, and the next report on the agenda tonight indicates that we're doing that. We picked up the fact that 120 councils, and here I'm going into what I was going to say later, but we picked the fact up that there's a fair groundswell of opinion that we should move on this. Let's hope there's a similar groundswell of opinion on the planning issues. But we will watch out for whatever we can. We'll watch out for things. On the issue of Skipton High Street, we'll take that away as we do from every meeting that we have and look at it. But I'm sure officers are aware of that. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Wheeler's question, if you want. Do you remember that one?
Just remind me very quickly what it was, Mark.
I think I'll probably answered it just now.
I
was along the lines of putting pressure, and I think the issue I raise is with developers, and I think you talked about viability. You know, clearly it's all about money.
It is. But as I say, whenever any initiative comes up, we will keep our eyes open for it and work with other people, as the next agenda item refers to.
I think from my point of view, sort of housing side of it is that if it does come down to a viability argument, it is, are you building carbon neutral houses? Are you building very low carbon houses? The difference in monetary value of doing the two is quite large. But with the viability test, then you lose your affordables. So therefore, it's that balancing act, isn't it, as to where we insist. So we're still office building site getting affordables delivered, delivering them at the most eco-friendly house possible, and you've still got the developers to make a profit, otherwise they won't build. So there's a bit of a catch-22 in there, and until, I mean, the build cost of eco houses will come down, full carbon neutral houses, but at the moment it is significantly high. We're even finding that with our own developments that we're looking at building carbon neutral houses, that it's nearly making it prohibitive to build them. We are going to have to come back to council with a question over that as to how do you make an affordable house when the price of the build, especially within the Yorkshire Dales National Park and the building criteria that they rely on, is actually viable even for us to do. So the big question is over carbon neutrality to low carbon, and I think we need to have that as in the back of our minds. Crucial to the planet. Setting up even retrofitting of stuff, so therefore it can put in, because the biggest expense to all this is retrofitting back into the existing housing stock. So we really need to be mindful that we're trying to future-proof as much housing as possible of the new build, but also we've got to really get a government about how we're going to cover the existing stock that we've got, because we've got a huge amount of really bad housing within Craven for energy out through windows, roofs, walls, doors, and we've got to get our heads around that as well. And the government's already come up with one policy on this, and there is money kicking around at the moment, but we're going to need more and a lot more spending on that, I feel, because I think that pot will go very, very quickly. I know quite a few householders are already heading towards that pot to get the cash to do what they need to do to make their house all right. It won't go far around here. Are you waving, Councillor Myers?
Yes, I was. Sorry. Yeah, just on something Councillor Wheeler said, I think we all share the frustration. It's not just developers. It seems nonsensical. There isn't more action taken to make them build in carbon neutral measures now when we see the emergency. But it's supermarkets as well. and it's people like online delivery organizations who think everything has to have 10 layers of shrink wrap packing and bubble wrap and all the rest of it. And however much the public say they don't want all this packaging, they still get it. Still thrown it. Just on Skipton High Street, I can tell Councillor Nolan, the officers will bear witness to it. I've been banging on about it for 10 years. My father banged on about it before me. So one day we'll get there. The pandemic has shown that it does work. Stakeholders who used to be against it are now broadly in favour of it. It's working around the complications that people have highlighted. We're on with it.
Yeah, by the way, Councillor Nolan, Company Green Mara and Skipton High Street, we've got to make it so this can happen more often into the future, because I do think it works, and I think it makes the High Street a far better environment. It's not just carbon. This is about, you know, the shopping, the retail experience, the cafe and the leisure experience, and probably where high streets are going. So I do think we need to really look at this as a serious long-term solution to a problem which is going to be high streets elsewhere. Councillor Ayrton.
Right, I think I'm unmuted now. It seems to be played up. Carbon neutral. On exception sites, surely, you know, where the land cost isn't great, isn't it? You know, we should be looking at actually building carbon neutral houses on these. And we also should be perhaps looking at lobbying government to introduce a land tax on the building land, which then can go into building carbon neutral housing. You know, if we just leave it to developers, that they're not going to do it. So I think we've got to grasp the nettle and really push the government to introduce, I would think, perhaps a land tax on it, which then we put back in to the building costs. I've not heard of anyone, officers or members, what the extra cost would be on building a carbon neutral property. Has anyone got that figure? You know, we're talking about being unaffordable and etc. You know, where's the figure at? Do we have that figure? Could someone answer that or not? Thank you.
Paul, do you have information, Ellis, on that you could?
Not to hand, but I'm happy to pull out the information on a couple of the sites that we've been looking to develop in one in Halton and one in Ayton, and circulate that to members.
Yeah, I mean, I would be interested to know actually what it is increasing the cost of developing this. You know, it's all right saying, well, they're unaffordable if we do this. Let's know what that cost's going to be, and we should be pushing developers to try and get them on board with us. Thank you, Chairman.
It's also the people selling the land, Councillor Ayrton, isn't
it? Well, that is absolutely right, Councillor Myers. You know, the cost of building land.
Why, out of the destruction of our environment,
the cost of building land is obscene.
Yeah.
It's obscene, the price of that. But until we can actually get government or through building regs to force developers to build carbon neutral, they will not do it. But it's like affordable housing. At the end of the day, it is not the developer, the landowner, that is actually putting the bill. And they can afford to foot the bill, the price they're getting for it. Well, that's in my view anyhow. Thank you.
No, I think there's agreement there that people have unrealistic values of what land is valued at in the current climate, and they really need to have a proper look at themselves. And if that is by doing a tax in order to make sure that they do pay their amount, David, I couldn't agree with you more. It's, you know, it always seems to be, well, the land cost us so much when we, you know, even when we go down to site viability assessments, it's sort of like, well, why did you pay so much for the land if it had so many building problems in the first place that you can now say that you can't put the affordables on? So I do think we need to look at that. But I also think we need to look at what Paul brings back to us, you know, of actually those differences in build costs, because they are considerable from what I've always heard. So I'm interested to hear. Councillor Rose, and then I'll probably tie this one up. You're muted, Councillor Rose.
Sorry, I flapped my hand inadvertently. I have no more I wish to say. Thank you.
I'm assuming it's been moved, so I'll second it from the chair. So on that note, members, we're happy to note the progress and move forward at pace, and thanking Rob and Carl and everybody else who's helping out with this, Chief Exec and everybody else who's delving into this for the work they've done so far, and keep up that rapid pace. Really good. Moving on, Carl, agenda item 10.
Thank you, Chairman. One thing that fills me with great hope as the lead member for Green of Craven is the amount of member interest that we've had and the length of the debate that we've had about the last issue. It's even longer than the financial debate. So thank you very much, members, for your interest. One of the things that we've said we'll do as part of our plan to address the climate emergency is to support local people and businesses who would like to generate their own renewable energy. Local people have good ideas about what to do, and you've already said, Chairman, a good idea is a good idea wherever it comes from. I totally concur with that. We've heard some really interesting proposals, things like solar installations on car parks, small wind turbines on farms, and the use of old mill races for micro hydro plants. The problem is that at the moment, these ideas are usually not financially viable. This isn't because they're not good ideas, but because the current system, it's because of the current system of regulation. At the moment, people and businesses who want to sell some of their electricity that they generate have no real option but to sell to a national utility company who then sell the electricity onto the consumer. This results in both low payments to small producers and high bills for residents. In June, a bill called the Local Electricity Bill was introduced to Parliament. If passed as law, this bill would allow local renewable energy producers to sell their energy directly to local consumers via the electricity grid, a major step forward. This could mean lower bills for residents and would give businesses and communities the opportunity to profit from the good ideas about renewable energy whilst benefiting the environment. This bill needs widespread support to ensure that it's given parliamentary time and that it passes. At present, it has the support, or the last count, it had the support of 120 councils and nearly 200 MPs. And I recommend tonight that we add our support to that. Thank you, Chairman.
I should declare an interest here, but as somebody who lives in a village with about 3 mill races, that the idea of my local village, either through a cooperative or whatever, being able to set up a local energy generation company and then sell that electricity on to the people who live in the village, thereby recycling the profit, so to speak, would be a really good idea. So I'm absolutely happy to second this. I think hopefully it will bring more of these schemes forward and get people moving into the realms of this. Because I do think we've got a lot of water within the Oxford Dales National Park that we don't utilise at the moment. And a lot of it's far too small a project for any big firm to take on board, but it could be something that a local group could get the teeth into and deliver. So if this generates 3 generators, if you know what I mean, it's been well, you know, across Craven, it's been well worth doing. Councillor Nolan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is fantastic. I would have put it through myself, put it forward, but I was told it was in the pipeline, so to speak. But my only concern is, apart from that, is our local MP doesn't support it at the moment. So could any Conservatives on the Craven District Council encourage Julian Smith to support the local electricity bill, please? Because I don't think I've got a line to him, so maybe one of you guys has.
Chairman, Robert like to say a word.
Go for it, Robert.
Yes, a few of us have been promoting this local electricity bill for several months now. Not just promoting it locally, but promoting it nationally. It is a national initiative that is absolutely strongly cross-party, and we are absolutely confident that when it does get reintroduced back into Parliament, that it will eventually get on to the statute book. So Craven ought to be behind it. And if it isn't moved or seconded, I'll move it or second it or whatever. It makes absolute sense.
You, Councillor Heseltine. I can't remember whether I seconded it or not, but I'm happy for you to do it. So, looking round, anybody else wanting to comment or quote on this? Are we voting, Guy?
I don't think we need to vote. I mean, it is mainly for noting and for the committee to express support, which I think they've done this evening. So I don't think we need to take a vote on it.
Anybody desperate to vote on it? Looking around, no, they don't appear to be. So, thank you, members. Moving on, agenda item 11.
Chairman, so can we say that the council agree unanimously with this then?
I'm looking to Guy.
Unless members have any objections, unless there's any members here this evening who is saying otherwise, I'm happy to record that as a unanimous.
Yes. 3.7. Yes.
Councillor Wheeler, would you like to come in?
Yes, just to follow up on Councillor Nolan's point, could we get some feedback from our Conservative members as to whether they can get our MP to get on board with this, please?
We will ask. We can try. We don't control our local MP. That's why they are MPs. But we'll have a word, won't we? And see if we can get him to at least have a look at this. I mean, I can't understand why anybody would be against this, but I know maybe it's taking the power away from the big electric companies by having loads of little people generating, but I'm not sure that's real anti-Tory policy. If people want to get on and do stuff, to my mind, that's conservatism. Is get on, get on in the world, and if getting on in the world means that you set up your own power generation company and start making a quid or two out of your local residents, that'd be a really good idea, I would have thought. But so anyway, it just needs doing. I'm looking around, everybody's nodding like mad over this. So yes, it's got attention. So let's get on with it. So moving on, agenda item 11. Appointments to subcommittees and panels. The Craven Employees Consultative Group. It's got here that we're just going to reappoint, so therefore the members who were on it are going to stay on it. That is as is from the Conservative Group as far as I'm concerned. I'm just checking that everybody, the other groups, we don't have either of the other group leaders here, but I'm assuming it is as is. Do you just want to go through the membership, Guy, if you can, or Annette, whoever's doing it?
Annette, do you want
yeah,
to?
Thank you, Chair. So the membership last year was the leader, deputy leader, and the group leaders. So yourself, Councillor Myers, Councillor Brown, Councillor Madeley, and Councillor Soloway.
I'm looking around, not checking the head from the other group to our group. I mean, if anybody wants to jump on in my place, they're more than welcome. While the monitoring officer fixes a light bulb. So members happy with that? We don't need a vote, do we? Looking, guys, shake your head.
No, I think if all members present are happy to reappoint on the same terms as last year, then I'll make a note of that in the minutes. That's fine.
And then moving on from that onto agenda item 12, with its Yorkshire Housing Group Craven Area Committee, its councillors Liz, Heseltine and Jacqueline we're not changing our membership on this unless anybody's desperate to change theirs. Looking round, and nobody's shouting, bawling, or doing anything. So can we take that as the membership of that one, or Councillor Myers?
I realise all the members who are about to be re-elected aren't here, but I don't know what influence they have on Yorkshire Housing. I can tell you when the canal burst its banks in Gargrave early this year and flooded Yorkshire Housing property, and they eventually managed to get through to the Yorkshire Housing hotline. The people manning that didn't know where Gargrave was. That doesn't give great confidence in Yorkshire Housing. So I don't know if we could have a bit more input, because certainly not terribly happy.
I've got Councillor Liz, if you want to, as a member of that committee.
That's right. I was just going to say, Councillor Myers, both myself and Councillor Heseltine are here, who are two of the people that hopefully will be reappointed to that. I think that I'm mindful of what you're talking about, and I know we've suffered from the closure of Skipton office, and I think we need to work hard to retain our voice. And that's why I think it's important that this council's representation it remains as it is, and we can put our views forward. I am aware there's a meeting, I think the next meeting, or the first meeting as far as I'm concerned, of the new group will take place in October, I think it is.
That's right, yes.
8th of October, Robert, yeah. Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman Robert's back. Had a technical hitch. I would wish this group does continue. Our 3 members on Yorkshire Housing, and I would wish to continue if possible, please.
Thank you. Councillor Rose, you were waving or not waving?
Thank you. Yes, I am aware that I'm not fully cognizant, or whatever the word is, with respect to Yorkshire Housing, but just the issues dealing with at Burnside development. Obviously, that's a Yorkshire Housing setup, and I welcome as much support as possible from those councillors who are on the committee to ensure that all does go well down at Burnside. We've had some tricky moments, I think I can say. So the more input we have, the better. Please and thank you.
I'm sure those members will be happy to respond and help you out down there wherever possible. So looking around, so we're happy to continue with the committee as it stands. So it appears to be nods and happiness with that, and nobody's shouting and waving. So we're on to agenda item 13, items of confirmation.
There are none this evening, Chair.
Thank you, the monitoring officer with a new light bulb. I've no any other items that have been put to me, and according to this, the date and the time of the next meeting is Tuesday, the 20th of October. Thanks for bearing with us through this, members. It's still not quite like having a meeting in person, but at the same time, I think we could still do business this way. So thanks for bearing with us all, and I shall see you all later.